Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting of Municipal Council. We start off our meetings just recognizing that we are holding this meeting on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish people, specifically the Lekwungen-speaking people known today as the Esquimalt and the Songhees First Nations, and that their connections to these lands continue to this day. We also want to point out that these proceedings are webcast, so all this proceedings will be recorded, broadcast live, and then recorded for future reference. We did just had to adjourn to an early in-camera meeting, which was the first motion item on the agenda. So we actually start today's meeting on item number 2, which is item number 2, which is the minutes of the budget estimates meeting held April 3rd.
Move approval.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes, corrections? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. Mayor's remarks. I don't have an awful lot to add today, but just a couple of things. One, majority of council attended the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities conference this last weekend, and I'll invite members of councils who attended to share any of their sort of highlights in the item number 8 under verbal updates. I also just wanted to make a quick touch point. There is a just a reminder to everyone. We have it up on our sign here right now, which is the just touch on the respectful workplace notion. I've just seen a couple of posts in recent months on social media in particular that sometimes casts staff in a negative light or a questioning light. And I just the staff have no way of defending themselves. And that respectful workplace does extend out, not just in this chamber, but into the broader community. And all the comments here really have to be lifted up, and just recognizing that all of our staff are subject to the ethical codes of their professions, of the Local Government Management Association, and they do hold themselves to those highest ethical standards. And I think it's just really important that good governance allows us to have professional advice come to this table, and us to disagree with that and have that. But that separation is very important. We need to have very honest recommendations from staff and very honest debate at this table on the other half of it. So I just want to just thank staff for all the work that they do. It's been a pretty busy council. We've been trying to move things forward quickly, and I just want to express my appreciation for all the work that they're doing on our behalf. And so thank you for that. That's all my comments today. We do, at the beginning of all of our council meetings, item number 4 is public participation period. This is a chance for any member, anybody who wishes to come forward and speak to council on items related to Oak Bay to do so. And our procedures bylaws states that you have up to 3 minutes. You don't have to use all 3 minutes to come forward and address us. We have a total of 20 minutes allocated for this section of time. So if there's anybody who wishes to come forward at this time and speak to Oak Bay Council, you are most welcome to come forward at this time. Procedurally, when you come forward, if you could just state your full name and your municipality of residence, and just write it down on the sign-in sheet as well, so we have the correct spelling of your name. Otherwise, you will be forever misspelt in our archive, in our minutes. So, no, just yeah.
Is that good?
That is great.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
You can sit down.
Okay,
Sit down.
okay.
Yes, please.
I'm Carrie Smart, and I live in Oak Bay. As a resident of Oak Bay, I am so incredibly grateful for the opportunities my family has experienced in local productions.
Mr. Earl's just going to move that over so
yeah.
you don't have to lean over. There we go.
In local productions of the Royal Theatre. With the board's proposed rate hikes and policy changes, I'm concerned with what may happen to the future of Dance Victoria, the Victoria Symphony, and the Pacific Opera. Over the last decade, I have taken my children to see the symphony and seen their minds dazzled by the magic of local musicians performing on stage in such a magnificent theater. This symphony program for kids is a huge asset for inspiring local children to pursue music as an admirable hobby or career. There are opportunities for children to try out the instruments in the lobby and then see local performers on stage making a living playing music. Will this program survive the rent hikes or a forced location change? My children throughout elementary and middle school have taken advantage of attending the dress rehearsals for the opera. I have chaperoned these events, and I have been astonished at how passionate and excited the children are to be part of these experiences. In awe of the lavish sets, the beautiful singing, and the costumes, I hear them talk about wanting to design costumes for a living and point out with pride that they know someone on stage. It is tangible for them, it is real, and it is attainable. Will this program survive the policy changes? I'm a regular season subscriber to Dance Victoria. The dance shows are phenomenal. The shows are always packed, and I love being able to support a local organization while seeing some of the world's best dance. I hear one of the reasons for these proposed changes is to adapt to a changing demographic. But when I attend these shows from these 3 local groups, they are packed or sold out. I understand that the theatre has no budget concern or a lack of attendance prompting such a drastic change in rates to local organizations. I personally have had the opportunity to dance on stage at the Royal with Reno Dance. What an amazing experience to be able to perform in such a beautiful space. I wonder if this dance school, a local fixture in the community, will be able to afford to perform here in the future. My son has taken ballet classes for 3 years, and when I ask him what his favorite part of ballet is, he says, it's dancing on stage at the big theatre where all the famous people dance. The Royal Theatre today is a truly community asset that many residents take pride in, and these 3 local organizations provide many jobs to creative members of our community that give back tenfold. The talented local professionals in these organizations teach us music, dance, and theatre, and they teach at our schools and they volunteer in our community. What an amazing community asset we have. Can we keep it, or will we lose it with these changes? Has the conversation happened outside the boardroom where we discuss the purpose and identity of this theatre as to whether it should or how should it change? As owners of the theatre, you are in a unique position to request and further conversations to happen, knowing what we have to lose. The Royal is owned by the community. There are conversations that still need to happen. We need your help to start that conversation. Let's not have any regrets. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Smart. So, thank you for the enthusiasm. I do ask, though, that there can be many different points of view that come to this microphone, and it can be quite intimidating if people are applauding. Certainly, booing is very difficult. But if you just hold your applause, you can certainly nod and smile or frown as you see fit. But it just want to make this a welcoming environment for people with any opinions. Anybody else wish to come forward and address council at this time?
Hello.
Welcome.
My name is Maureen Bradley, and I'm an Oak Bay resident.
Welcome, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you. I've lived in Victoria for 15 years. I came here to become a professor at the university, and I teach in the Faculty of Fine Arts. I'm a working artist, I'm a filmmaker, and I've been involved with the local and the national media arts community. For example, as a board member of the Media Arts Alliance of Canada, I was also the president of Cinevic, a local filmmaking society. I've been on juries for the BC Arts Council and the Canada Council. And through my arts advocacy of about 25 years, I know that every dollar invested in the arts yields another 10 in economic activity. And I'm asking you to keep that money local. I've attended many shows at the Royal, produced by the 3 local organizations affected by these proposed changes. I saw international recording artists like Herbie Hancock. There's room for that. And I've brought my daughter to the local Nutcracker show. And like many other parents in the CRD, I chaperone kids at the opera. But I'm very concerned about the proposed rent hikes by the board of the Royal and McPherson Theatre Society. As owners and stewards of this community asset, I urge you to reconsider the current direction and request an independent, perhaps mediator, arbitrator process, something, to hear the concerns of both the board, but also the 3 local organizations involved. At the very least, I think a new survey should be conducted that's free from confirmation bias that I see in the one that's been made public. A new survey should be designed or conducted by qualified professionals who have no affiliation with the society, with Dance Victoria, with the symphony, or with the opera, to remove the bias. Did the previous survey go out to all subscribers of Dance Victoria, the symphony, and the opera? I personally know nobody who was invited to participate, but I do know many local art lovers, arts administrators, musicians, dancers who are worried about the future of the local art scene as a result of this, what seems like a one-sided decision. Did the survey ask local patrons and consumers of the arts, do you want more global performances at the theater if this means charging local organizations more money that will possibly put them out of business, and losing some local arts programs? It did not, and that's a question that needs to be asked now. Consider a positive example in Victoria. We're avid consumers of arts in the CRD. The Belfry Theatre is a great case study, okay? A number of years ago, all of their runs were completely selling out. So what they did is they increased their runs to 7 weeks instead of 6. Nowhere else in Canada has this happened. This is a city that loves art. This is a city that consumes art. And I want you to consider these retrograde rate hikes, say yes to supporting the local art scenes, and please consider the proposal that's before you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just write down your name as appreciated. Is there anybody else who wishes to come forward? You can come forward now and set up at the microphone. Anyone else wishes to come forward? Not seeing anybody else. Okay, thank you very much for coming out. Thanks for those who spoke. And we'll move on with the agenda. That is the opportunity to speak to the next item as well, which is the Royal McPherson Theatre Society doing a presentation of the strategic plan. And I would invite them to come forward. If you could just introduce yourselves and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Murdoch and Council. My name is Lauren Delarge. I'm the volunteer president of the Royal McPherson Theatre Society.
And I'm Lloyd Fitzsimons. I'm the executive director of the Royal McPherson Theatres.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much. So clearly this is a topic which has lots of interest in the community. So we wanted to come and speak with your council directly, and we appreciate the opportunity to do so. We also appreciate the fact that Oak Bay Council has been supporting the Royal Theatre for many years, and we look forward to a long and fruitful relationship. To start, we wanted to provide you with some background about the Royal Theatre. In 1973, it was bought with vision by the three municipalities, Oak Bay, Saanich, and Victoria, and later turned over to CRD for beneficial ownership, and supported as a way to continue with arts and culture vibrancy in our region. We currently receive about $580,000 a year in contributions from the three municipalities. The overwhelming majority, $480,000, goes towards the repair and upkeep of the building. About 4% ends up in our operating budget for the Royal Theatre. In terms of governance, I'm very proud of our board. We have a very strong board. Our board is made up of people from the community, architects, lawyers, accountants, senior government officials, senior bankers, retired police officers, 3 council representatives from the 3 municipalities, and others. Back in 2014 and again in 2017, we looked at what is our strategy, where are we going, why are we here, who do we serve, what is our purpose. Coming out of that, there was a few really clear points of view that we have turned into some sort of action and some sort of forward-looking approach for our strategy. First, we realized that the profile of our organization was not as high as it should be, and it's been something we've been focusing on and investing on. Also, we found that there's a number of presentation gaps, arts gaps in our community, and we took the risk to become a presenter, and after 3 years, we're very proud of the National Geographic Live series and are going to be continuing that. Also, we had no conduit back to our owners, back to the CRD, to speak to you about the organization, our budget, our concerns, our direction, our strategy. And through our lobbying efforts, we've had the CRD subcommittee resurrected, of which there's now been 4 meetings on this particular topic. We also looked at our vision, and our vision was very much about who do we serve, why are we here? And the theater is very important for all people of this region, extremely important for all people of this region. Not only is it an historic site, it is a massive economic generator. A theater filled with people produces economic results. But it's even more importantly, it is what brings vibrancy through arts and culture to the people who live in this region. This is something that we believe in. We looked at some of our numbers. We looked at who attends and how many attend. And we looked at the sales, not the number of tickets that might be given away, but the number of tickets that people are willing to depart their money with. And over a 10-year period, you'll see the trend line towards the sales of 2 of the larger entities, 2 of the larger not-for-profits that use the Royal Theatre. Dance Victoria, you'll note, is not represented here. Dance Victoria has been doing well in their ticket sales and has been very stable. Dance Victoria typically brings in touring commercial shows or not-for-profit dance shows from back east or the US, and they do and have been selling well. This next slide, though, in our view, is really important, and if there's one takeaway, this is the slide to consider. The dark part of that pie is the number of days the Royal Theatre sits empty, void of audiences. The orange part of the pie is when we have a presentation from the 3 large not-for-profit organizations. Overwhelmingly, the Royal Theatre sits empty. There's no economic generation when our Royal Theatre sits empty. There's no arts, there's no vibrancy, there's no value to the people of this region. Our employees are sitting at home not earning a paycheck. What we've been working to do is reduce, not eliminate, not stop, but reduce the number of what we call dark days. This is very important to us because we believe that it's beneficial to this region to have more, not less, arts. An example right now is Countess Maritza, the opera is putting on. The opera has rented our theater for 21 straight days. We have 4 public performances in 21 days, 17 days without a public performance. This is something that we would like to change. This is something we'd like to see improved. As a result of that, we did commission an independent survey. The survey was done by a well-known Vancouver survey company, one who puts their reputation on the line for the work that they do. And they did a representative sample of people who live in the region, not people who particularly are subscribers to any particular organization, but who are representative of our region. What we found overwhelmingly, people of this region believe that there needs to be greater access to the theater, that we need to use this theater efficiently. 9 out of 10 people agreed with that particular statement. And they also agreed that the Royal Theatre needs to adapt to the changing demographics, the changing tastes, the changing ages and attitudes of the people who've chosen to reside in this region. Of those who had an opinion, 9 out of 10 felt the Royal McPherson was moving in the right direction. Only 1 out of 10 disagreed with that particular statement. Also, overwhelmingly, 87% believe that the Royal McPherson is a well-run organization. This slide delves a little bit deeper into those numbers. And you'll see that there's about a third of the population who doesn't yet have an opinion in one way or the other. But of those that do, 63% believe the Royal McPherson is doing the right thing to drive more arts, more culture, more vibrancy, supporting the demographic changes, and allowing more forms of entertainment to come to Victoria. A full 2/3. Some facts, and you've been given a number of facts. The rental rates at the Royal Theatre are comparable to those of other theatres across the country for not-for-profit organizations. We have not restricted the number of performances that can go on at the Royal Theatre. The 3 large not-for-profits generate 55% of our revenue, consume 91% of all the days during the peak season. Discussions with the 3 entities have been going on in earnest for the last 14 months with 9 face-to-face meetings and consultations around the concerns that we have with how the Royal Theatre is being utilized. Indeed, these conversations have gone back for more than a decade. We regularly turn away entertainment that Victorians could benefit from seeing. Most recently, David Blaine, magician, Buddy Guy, blues guitarist, Morrissey, frontman of the Smiths, considered the best British lyricist of all times, Virtue and Moyer, Canadian Olympic champions and world champions, have all been turned away. Additionally, Chris Hadfield and Rick Mercer was turned away. Luckily, they found a date at the Mayor Winspear Centre so Victorians can still enjoy their shows. The Symphony has moved some of their shows to university, the Farquhar Centre. And as a result of their moving of some of their shows, we've been able to book RuPaul's Drag Race, Relive the Music, a 50s and 60s music tribute show, Cheech and Chong, and you might know Chong is from Vancouver, and Roger Hodgson, frontman, founder, and lyricist for the supergroup Supertramp. We have also confirmed a Broadway musical, a popular musician, a speaker, and a TV-inspired show. The promoters have not yet announced the name, so I'm not at liberty to say what and who is coming, but I know that you will be very impressed when you hear who it is. We do believe that there's room for all at the Royal Theatre, but in order to accommodate, there needs to be changes, there needs to be compromise. After multiple meetings in 2018, we gave notice of 1 year and 2 years for price and booking changes to the 3 large not-for-profits. As a result, 2 more meetings were held in January to further hear the concerns and their requests. We then, as a board, made the decision to provide 2 full years' notice of price increases and 3 full years' notice of booking changes to give them adequate time to make any changes that they could. Also, at that session, they asked for a 3-year contract, which we have also provided, giving them price surety and clarity over booking privileges. We also have provided 2 years advance booking ability for the 3 large not-for-profits to the Royal. No other promoter, organization, profit or not-for-profit alike is given that ability. We confirm and have guaranteed that their full seasons are intact, and we will allow their full seasons to carry on at the Royal Theatre, while respecting their unique needs for vocal rest days, rehearsal days, setup days, takedown days. All of these, we believe, can still be accommodated. There's been no restrictions placed on their performances, no loss of performance dates, and we still provide rates below commercial rates. We have also, as part of this, provided an opportunity to rent the theatre Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at a marginally increased rate to encourage the use and the move from weekend-only presentations to other days of the week. The Opera de Montreal will do that, where they will present 5 shows in 12 days. And this is something we'd like to see in Victoria. Efficient use of the theatre so that others can also use it. Moving forward, we all agree that the Royal and the McPherson, but tonight it's about the Royal, is a gem of our community, something that's been supported by 3 municipalities for which we appreciate. We also know that people are looking to have more entertainment options, more culture, more life, more vibrancy for their children and for their families and for themselves. We believe there's room for all. We believe that our structure is one that allows for them to continue with very modest rates and with their seasons intact. And we look forward to our continued support with Oak Bay, Saanich, and Victoria, and our continued relationship with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Large and Mr. Fitzsimons. I will entertain, we're here really to receive this presentation today, but this is a rare opportunity. I certainly appreciate you coming out to give the presentation. I think this is obviously a topic of high interest for our community and for the region. Are there questions from anybody on council of? I'll give Councillor Ney an opportunity to, if you're as a representative on the board, if you want to
Well-
say anything, you're welcome to do so as well.
Should I start? Or what?
Sure,
is
if you
that
wish.
okay?
I don't think
Or-
there doesn't need to be a lot of questions, so we'll
Yeah.
just, if you have anything
Well,
to add, you're
I'll be
welcome to.
honest, I'm interested to hear from my council colleagues. I mean, they have been updated since December, what was unfolding here, and I'm sure they've had a lot of contact with our community as well. And they've had the presentation, so I think I'll leave it to our council and just see what kind of input or questions they may have.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
thanks.
Councillor Ney. And just, so I will, just for those in the audience who are curious about those the two items. So Councillor Ney is our representative for Oak Bay on the Royal McPherson Theatre Society Board. There are 3 council representatives, one from each of the 3 owners of the Royal, so that's Saanich, Victoria, and Oak Bay. There's also a number of appointments from the CRD who manages the that relationship on behalf. As the funding goes through the CRD, the subcommittee, the Royal McPherson Theatre Society Advisory Committee that was mentioned, I am the representative on as a subcommittee of the Finance and Governance Committee of the CRD, and that body was really intended there to look at the budget requests coming forward from the Royal McPherson Theatre Society. Because the budget had been fixed in bylaw at $580,000 for many years, it was just disbanded. It never met for many years. So this is the first year we met again, and to change those bylaws to give a bit more flexibility and bring that budgeting process back to the piece. It's not really, it's not an oversight or governance piece, but it is there for looking at the budget. So that is fairly new this year. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair. Excuse me. I did get a couple of questions from some of our residents, and one was that the question was, although the RMTS board have deferred the increases for a year, they have not agreed to any reduction in the rates. So they're wondering if there is an opportunity for us to have a third-party review and stakeholder consultation. So is that something that you're still looking at, or you haven't? Is that true that you have not agreed to any reduction in the rates?
We have deferred the rates for 2 full years, not 1 year, as initially was what we suggested in October. So it's now 2 full years for rate increases. Our board believes that the rates are very fair. We've been charging $2,000 for a performance day and $500 for a day that the theater's left dark. The theater at $500 is cheaper than some hotel rooms in Victoria. We have changed our pricing so that Sunday through Wednesday, the rate increase is modest, and we believe an increase of $500 for those days is very affordable, and I don't believe this is a question of affordability. We believe this is a question of access to the theater and who controls the days that are in limited supply.
So, follow-up question. Do you know how many days dark the McPherson theater is?
I don't have that with us. This presentation and the concern has been about the Royal. I don't know, Lloyd, if you want to comment.
Off the top of my head, I can't answer that, sorry.
It would be curious to know if it was similar to the Royal. So, and then my last comment would be, I think on slide number 11, you talked about some governance, and it says governance is not viewed as a problem by residents of the region. So that I found really almost like an oxymoron. Like you're telling me in one breath that there's a problem with costing and making money and having dark days in the theater, but then here you're talking about how 87% of those with an opinion believe that it's well managed. So do you see where I'm kind of confused there?
Yeah, and we could delve deeper into that answer for you, or some questions around that particular topic. The way that we've interpreted that is that the theater has been well maintained. We've renovated over the years. Physically, it's appealing. It's impressive for those who show. And when they do come to a show, the experience is of a high quality, and we're not financially in any sort of financial difficulty at this point. So I think if you put all those together, the impression is that it's been well managed.
Okay, and I guess just lastly, I think that, originally Oak Bay came on board in 1973 to purchase this theater basically for the community. And I guess that I have a little bit of trouble with seeing what I would consider kind of the core of our community, those three groups, not being able to continue on in something that we had originally paid money to be able to keep it within our community. So I personally would like to, hopefully when we hear from other people as well, maybe have a chance to sit down and have another conversation about this, about how the rates could perhaps be changed to be a little bit more accommodating. But that's, I think, for further on in the conversation.
Thank you. Seeing any other questions or comments? No, I have a couple. Perhaps I'll just throw out to you to answer. My understanding is the financially things are quite well managed currently. So, what was the philosophy of the rate change? In this case, there was never an ask of the owners to increase the subsidy or to look at other options for that. So, why go down the path of a rate change in this situation?
Yeah, and I'll happy to answer that. For 21 years, we've not asked nor have we received any increase from government. So for 21 years, we have been on our own to make sure that we're managing this organization sustainably. And for 20 years, Lloyd has been at the helm. We look at our financials, and over the last 6 years, some years we've made money, some years we've lost money. 4 of the 6 we did make a marginal amount of money, 2 of the 6 we didn't, and we have made sacrifices in order to stay in the black. Looking forward, we have a number of new costs which are being incurred by the theater, so financial sustainability is a concern for us. Our retained earnings equates to about 5 to 6 months of our operating expenses. So while we have money in the bank, we're not wealthy, and we don't believe that's a significant amount of money that we'd want to rely on so that we don't have to come back to municipalities to give us the money. But more importantly, when we looked at how we priced the theater, and as I say, $500 to rent the theater for and leave it dark, we just found was actually creating the very problem that we had, which was renting the theater and leaving it dark. So we had to increase the rate in order to have people use the theater more judiciously. This is no different than how WestJet or Air Canada or any other organization demand prices. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights are in demand. They should theoretically be a little bit more expensive. And we did it that way, where we increased Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but we left Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday very reasonable, only a $500 increase on a per night basis. So we did this to partially incent the right behavior so that all organizations would use the theater more judiciously and not leave it empty most of the time, so that other organizations could also partake in renting it. We still provide rates comparable to other theaters across the country for not-for-profits, and they're still at 50% of what we charge commercial. So we're still providing a very good value at this particular location.
Thank you for that. And part of the other issue here, as I understand it, is, I mean, just the size of that particular theater is, doesn't allow for sets to be moved back and for the stage to be used during downtime, especially for the more elaborate sets. Is there anything currently in the strategic plan that looks at modifications to the building or perhaps new buildings in future to address some of the broader theater needs of the region?
There is certainly discussion going on right now about is a newer, bigger, better theater warranted in Victoria. We've seen smaller theaters pop up here in Oak Bay, the Dave Dunnett and also the Platinum Room out at the casino. They see less than 500 each. So we've not seen anything of the size that we really believe that Victoria should have. There is some discussion at the CRD level in the City of Victoria about perhaps this is time to have a look at this and invest in a new type of infrastructure that would serve us for another 100 years. I look at what the forethought of the people who created the Royal Theatre was back in 1913, and it's amazing. They built a 1,470 seat theatre at a time that Victoria was small and fledgling, and it served us for more than 100 years. I do think it's time to look at our infrastructure around the arts and what do we need, what should we need, what do we need to invest in. This is a regional conversation. I don't believe the three municipalities should nor can they afford this on their own. I do believe it's a regional one, and I do believe that discussion has started, and I also believe it's starting primarily because of some of the changes that we've identified in the conversations we've been having.
Thank you. And there's no doubt this has sparked a lot of conversation in the region. For those who don't know, one of the things that was added to the CRD strategic priorities was a discussion around the broader theater needs of the region. I don't know where that's going to go, but that is now on the table for the next 4 years to have that conversation. I'm curious, my last question, does the board have ideas about fostering, because Councillor Braithwaite touched on this, there are theaters in the world that essentially cater to the public arts, right? So to these public sector non-for-profit organizations, and Victoria has a remarkable not-for-profit art scene here in many ways for its size. It's quite remarkable, the quality of arts that get produced. So does the board have any ideas where to have that philosophical discussion? Because we've had this conversation at I've had it with multiple tables with some of the stakeholders, with the council, with the CRD directors, with the is there a place or a model that you can foresee where this broader conversation might happen well?
I'll let Lloyd answer that.
I finally get to answer a question. It's a municipally led conversation. We manage 2 buildings owned by 3 municipalities. We have 13 municipalities to talk to. So certainly the Royal and McPherson Theatre Society's Board of Directors is simply not equipped to lead that conversation. So I would look to CRD Arts as the central point to start that conversation out from. How you manage that conversation has been difficult for the last 30 years in this community, and I don't think it'll come easily this time. But there's a great deal more interest. We discovered that last year when we toured through 11 different city councils and talked about support for the McPherson. We discovered there was quite a lot of interest in most of the municipalities about that. So I think there is an interest there, and I think there's an opportunity within the municipal government structure, which likely leads us to the CRD to have that conversation.
Thank you. And certainly most of the people here, I think, tonight are here for this topic. It's been a topic of great interest to our community. Absolutely. Councillor Name?
Yeah. I as the sitting council person on the RMTS, I just thought I'd share a few observations of this process that we've undergone with the RMTS board. One of the things I want to say is that I really appreciate the comments of people who came up at the open mic and the concern that people have for these 3 user groups in particular who are most directly affected by these changes. But I think it's also really important to state that, you know, as I've sat on this board, there's utmost respect for what these user groups bring to the community and those who participate, and the very high quality of arts that they bring to various audiences in our region. So this isn't about anything that is negative about what those user groups bring. And the other important point is that it's never been the intention to consider this objective, which has been about bringing a more diverse arts performances to the region. It's never been the attention. In fact, it's been of utmost concern to, I can't speak for all board members, but my impression that I'm left with is it's really important that any changes made do not interfere with the viability and feasibility of these three user groups. And our staff and the board has looked carefully at their financials, and these fees seem to be able to be accommodated within their. I'm not going to speak for these user groups. It makes it different. It makes things tighter. It does make it for these user groups to sort of reconsider how they're delivering their performances and when. But these are changes that have been made now after undergoing a great deal of back and forth between the user groups and staff and the board. And I think we're in a period now where we're going to try this, but I do think it's really, really important to state this is not about undermining the sustainability of these user groups. We all value them, and we want them to continue to thrive and be very engaged in our community. And the final point I just would like to make is about future conversations, because this really this whole initiative has it's been a hot button that has flared up, in the community. And I think that what's apparent is that probably the region has evolved to the point where we need to get back to having a conversation about what the arts will look like in this region. So it's a great question, Mr. Mayor, that you asked about where can we have this kind of conversation, because it's quite possible. I also am council liaison on the CRD Arts Commission, and that probably would be the right place to have that conversation kickstarted. That's where the strategic plan was initiated from. And it may be timely for us as a community to sit down together and have some conversation, get away from the negotiation table and start having a conversation about what we value, how we want the future to look like, and who will be part of that. So I certainly would support that, and I would bring it up when I meet with the CRD Arts Commission again. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Ney. Councillor Zelka.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation regarding the theatre and its governance and some of the challenges that we're facing. I very much want to echo the comments around the governance and where is the most appropriate place. I feel the CRD may be a more appropriate place in terms of moving the ownership and the aspects of how to share this resource and have ownership of this resource across the region. So I'll admit this is one of the very few areas that I would consider and support amalgamation. Thank you.
All right. Well, on behalf of council, thank you very much. I need a motion to receive the presentation.
Proceed.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and opposed. Thank you so much for your time and coming out. I know this is, as you see, a topic of great interest, and I look forward to the regional discussion going forward. Thanks. We'll just wait a moment here as people who are here for this topic can find their way out. Thank you so much for coming out today. As we move on to more exciting topics like the purchasing of fitness equipment. Yeah. Ms. Carter, are you here to talk to this item?
Your Worship, I'm going to inadequately step in for Mr. Meikle and Mr. Herman.
Okay, sounds good. So we next item is item number 6, request for fitness cardio equipment purchase. Mr. Jones, we have the report in front of us. Is there anything you wish to add?
Your worship, there's not much to add, just other than saying every 3 years we go out and purchase new cardiovascular equipment for the rec center. It's important. Those pieces of equipment are probably used almost 18 hours a day constantly. So we need to make sure that they're replaced on a regular basis and well maintained. The staff have gone through a very significant process to select what they felt are the best pieces of equipment. And the one little bit of a change is historically we have gone out and borrowed money through the MFA to pay for that. And with that, of course, you pay a bit of interest. So what is being proposed by staff is that we actually borrow that money basically from ourselves and pay it back to ourselves with interest. So if you take the total amount, it's going to be roughly $25,000 that we would pay back to ourselves rather than to a bank.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councillor Zelka?
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for the report. It looks very thorough, and I much appreciate all the work that went into it. I did want to ask, in the last year, if I recall correctly, on Oak Bay Avenue, was it Women's Fitness closed? I'm trying to remember what the name of the facility was. And they seemed to be carting out all sorts of equipment that looked a lot like some of the stuff that was priced out here. Just wondering whether there was any consideration for some of the turnover in some of the fitness equipment that most likely is out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Your worship, we actually purchase equipment new because that comes with a warranty period, and in this case it's 3 years. And if it was used equipment, we wouldn't necessarily have that same period of warranty.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Worship. To you two staff, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, but I'm just wondering, and this reveals my own ignorance about the process. But how typical is this process to borrow funds from reserve funds that are not otherwise allocated for that purpose?
Mr. Jones?
Your worship, it's not uncommon at all. It's something new to us, and one of the things that has changed is that the gas tax money has become much more flexible in what we can use it for. So this type of equipment is specifically identified as something we can spend gas tax money on. So it used to be a bit more difficult, but those opportunities have opened up.
Ms. Carter?
Your Worship, just for clarification, the District of Oak Bay has done this type of a lending agreement in the past. I don't recall, it was before my time, but I believe it might have been for the heritage, something to do with heritage.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll
You can make the motion.
move the recommendation from the staff report, recommendations 1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I have one, I guess, general comment, because this is one of those odd ones whereby the winning bid was not close to the lowest bid. This is based on a whole range of other aspects of need, measuring of the quality of the responsiveness of the team that does the main, all those pieces, and I think that is laudable. I think it's important for us to run this as a business, not to the lowest dollar up front for the highest cost long term. But I guess my question is there anything within our RFP process that could capture some more of this value, as part of the value added piece, so that we're not getting sort of this very large range of costs and having to make this kind of justification towards the end of it, if those are built into the RFP process itself. And perhaps that's really not fair without Mr. Meikle or Mr. Herman here, but I'll throw the question out anyway. Ms. Carter.
Your Worship, typically what happens is each RFP is considered individually depending on what the requirements are, and there's an evaluation matrix that's identified up front, a weighted evaluation matrix, and so it is a fair process going through, and price is one part of that.
I don't argue at all. It looks like a very fair process. I think the evaluation process is very good. It's just when you have such a big gap between the low price and the winning bid, you should have wondered, well, was the wording of the RFP originally not sufficiently clear that there's a certain level of expectation in that response? But I just throwing it out there as a comment, not as a criticism. With that, I'll just call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. Item number 7, grant allocations. Well, we all dread every estimates process. We are trying a new process for the large audience left in the room here. We are trying a slightly different process than we have in the past, where we all just sort of talked about each one individually and kind of hammered them out without a larger framework of what that context was of the overall grant amount. So this year we've already had the motion made to keep the total grant allocation the same as last year. We've still reserved an additional $10,000 available to council over the course of the coming year. But within that, we are now allocating the grant asks within that framework. We also, as I understand it, sort of caught some ways that are grants that we haven't typically debated in the past, but we shared all of those items with council. Every member of council has had a chance to kind of go through and figure out how they would allocate it themselves. We're going to go around the table, read those out, and then try and use those averages to guide that allocation to this process. Hopefully, it'll just work out. And I think we're just going to read the numbers out. If there's somebody who's significantly above or significantly below the other members of council, it's probably worth just asking the question of why. And we can get that explanation because there's probably some justification for it. But other than that, we're going to go through this essentially as a procedural piece as opposed to debating each individual one with the indulgence of council. So, Ms. Carter, is there anything you wish to add to that?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. So Council, as you mentioned, has agreed to cap the 2019 grant funds to be distributed at $211,475, an amount consistent with 2018 funding levels. To date, Council has already allocated grants in the amount of $6,345 and also the BIA, Business Improvement Association levy of $78,000. So in addition to that, Council has indicated that they wish to hold $10,000 in reserve for one-time special requests throughout the year, and we typically do that each year for Council. So this leaves $117,130 to be allocated among the applications listed on this spreadsheet. And the total grant request for the remaining applicants is actually $148,246. The purpose of the spreadsheet as seen on the screen is to allow council to have done some individual prep work and then come back together to collectively and publicly allocate the remaining $117,130 to the applications listed on the spreadsheet. So at tonight's meeting, we'll ask each councillor to provide their proposed allocation of funds and average the totals. Council may then deliberate if the average amount allocated to each application is appropriate and indicate via council resolution. Now that Council has received the grant applications, reviewed the submission packages, and had opportunity to ask questions of the applicants, tonight's meeting will see the grant application process unfold. This process is intended to be streamlined from previous years while maintaining a public and transparent allocation of funds to the grant applicants. And both staff and Council would like to thank all those that applied. And if I could just give you a brief outline of what's on the spreadsheet here with a little bit of background, I think that might help in your decision making. So if we go down to the very bottom of the spreadsheet, it shows that section there, there's from item P through U, those have been amounts that in the past have been allocated. They're not applied for each year. It's been many years in the making and agreements that were made at those times. So for example, the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Fund, I was able to determine what that was, and it has to do with the cemetery and the organization that is maintaining that, so it's to assist with the costs. So typically Council has just allocated 100% of those grants on an annual basis. And then going up, the top section of the spreadsheet are all of the actual grant applications that were received and you would have had an opportunity to review.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the one exception to them all being older is the South Island Prosperity Project, no, the South Island Prosperity Partnership, which was essentially a 3-year agreement that the previous council had signed up for to allocate that amount of money on a consistent basis for 3 years. Was that agreement? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Zelka?
If you don't mind my asking a quick question,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Chair, with respect to the items P through U, those ones that are perpetual grants, are we allowed to modify those, or was the intention to leave them alone? I wasn't sure.
I believe the intention is to leave them alone at this time. However, that does not preclude council from being able to change that. It's as Ms. Carter said, they have been very steady for a very long time. So I think that would be the question would be how we would address the fact that they would be changed. Okay. So for those 2 new councillors at this table, this is about the most painful thing we ever do. Because it's really hard. It's hard to kind of whittle down whatever, all very reasonable and meaningful asks and then put it in there. But it is also a relatively small portion of our budget and not deserving of many, many hours of angst. I think this is where we just sort of rip the Band-Aid off quickly and go through it. I understand Councillor Green has sent in her numbers, so she won't be here to explain why. But is it possible just for us to enter those numbers first, and then we'll Ms. Varela?
Your Worship, if I could suggest, would you do each item as a round table around the council rather than vertical columns?
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we starting on the left with me then? Is this I get to go first on all of these? Okay, item number 1, City of Victoria, 1,500. Then Appleton.
2,000.
2,000.
1,500.
Councillor Ney.
2,000.
And 1,000.
I got a pretty good sense of what that average would be. All right, next item is Community Association of Oak Bay. I have 500. Appleton.
2,000.
1,250.
2,000.
Oh,
Sorry.
I should have redirected that to Ms. Varela. 2,000. Councillor Ney. 2,000.
2,000.
Councillor Appleton.
1,200.
1,000.
Friends of Uplands Park. 1,800.
2,500.
2,500.
2,500.
25.
25.
2,000.
We have Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society. I have 2,000.
2,000.
2,000.
2,000.
2,000.
1,000.
500.
We have Green Teams. 7,000.
Your Worship, if we could just slow down a bit for the fabulous Victoria over there who's typing as quickly as she can.
I think we can do that. Yes, my apologies. This is not fair to go as fast as we can talk. That's not the intention here. Are you all caught up now? Thank you. Green Teams. I have 7,000.
2,500.
2,500. Have you been looking at my notes?
2,500.
4,000.
6,000.
Councillor Zelka.
2,000.
The Jeux Francophonie. I have need for glasses, apparently. It's printed very small. 16,000.
10,000.
20,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
Councillor Zelka.
10,000.
We have Maritime Museum. I had 0.
1,000.
1,000.
1,000.
4,000.
$4.
Sorry.
3,000.
$500.
All right. North Oak Bay Community Association, 200.
200.
1,000.
0.
1,000.
1,000.
$500.
Are we good? Item number I, Oak Bay Figure Skating, 3,500.
5,000.
0.
$3,309.
I'm guessing where the remainder went on Councillor Green's, Councillor Nay.
2,500.
0.
$4,000.
Item number J, Oak Bay Heritage. Can I ask a question on this one, just because I wasn't entirely clear? There was a grant already given in the year to Oak Bay Heritage. Can you refresh my memory as to what that was?
Yes, Your Worship. So that was essentially a flow through to the District of Oak Bay,
Right.
and
Okay.
so we get the money in and have to allocate it out to
Right.
them.
Thank you. I knew
1345.
there was some rationale to that, so maybe this would anyway. I put down 3,500. I'll stay there. 3,500.
4,000.
4,000.
4,000.
25.
4,000.
4,000.
All right. Thank you. Oak Bay Lawn Bowling Club. 42.
Can I just, sorry, I had an edit. Sorry, I wasn't reading my edit. It's
No.
4,000. I had 4,000 on Heritage.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oak Bay. Sorry, you did it. Heritage. Oak Bay Lawn Bowling. I have 4,200.
0.
4,700.
Councillor Green.
2,350.
I had 2,250. 2,250.
Thank you.
4,700.
And 4,700.
Okay. You can see how hard this is to debate every time. It's just a much simpler process to do this. Oak Bay Sea Rescue. I have 5,000.
6,034.
6,150.
3,075.
3,075. Councillor Nay.
4,000.
6,150.
And 6,000.
Yeah, who's closest? Whoever's closest to the average, I think, should get an extra prize on this one. Item M, South Island Film and Media Commission. I have 10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
All right. I know the average on that one. We all get a prize. So it takes a minute to type it in, so we're good. Victoria Sexual Assault Center. I have 2,000.
8,000.
0.
3,500.
5,500.
10,000.
10,000.
And then we have Victoria Women's Transition House Society. I have 0.
2,000.
0.
1,500.
2,000.
2,000.
1,000.
Okay. And we scroll down into the previously untouchables. Here we go. Halloween Kiwanis, 500.
500.
500.
500.
500.
500.
I didn't change any of those, so whatever numbers they are, that's what I put down. 500.
But I think Councillor Patterson, did you change? Okay. And did Councillor Green change any of those?
No change.
Okay. So maybe this is much simpler if Councillor Patterson just goes over what she changed.
Okay, so
Sorry to put you on the spot like this.
The Oak Bay High Scholarship, I gave 0. The South Island Prosperity Partnership, 40,000, and the Integrated Recreation, 6.
Everything else you have remaining the same? Okay. If we can just enter those in, it would just be good to get what the averages work out to on those so that we can. I think this is one of those situations whereby the new process and the new counselor is like there's no understanding of what the expectations are. You've never seen these before, so yes, absolutely.
Chair, while we're waiting, may I ask a question of staff?
Yes.
With respect to the 78,000 for the BIA Oak Bay Village Improvement, I understood that was an in and out, not
It is.
unlike. So why is that one subtracted from our total amount, whereas the other amount is not subtracted from our total amount? I'm just confused by that.
Sure, it is a grant, so it's still on our list. But Ms. Carter, would you just?
Through your worship, yeah, that's essentially a flow through, and they, my understanding is they've already been to council, and so it's been pre-approved already. This is the last year of their bylaw for that.
For the same reason that the heritage one is also off the list on the piece, right? All right, where are we at in the totals here? This is where my eyes do fail me. I can't actually see the.
So your worship, it works out to 115,878.
Can I just make? Are the totals at the bottom of each of us, or did we mistake anything? I was a little under the total by a couple of $100. Is there?
Uh, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 2,000, 2,500, 10,000, 1,000, 0, 3,309, 4,000, 2,350, 3,075, 10,000, 3,500, 1,500, and the remaining the same as the allocation. So 500, 1,500, 3,000, 3,500, 44, 331, and 7,065. Okay.
So with that, so can you just tell me what the total is in that blue line then for what we've allocated?
The total is 115,878.
Okay, so we're $1,300 under our available allocation. There's nothing wrong with being under. Oh, yeah, Councillor. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Sorry, I know that that Councillor Patterson was the only one that was below on the Oak Bay High School grants or scholarship, and I'm wondering what, because I can't see it from here, what it has come out to, what the average of everybody has come out to, because I'm just thinking it should be a round number.
1,286.
So, I mean, I don't know if we could convince you, Councillor Patterson, to perhaps go up to the 1,500.
Well, it's interesting. How did that average? Okay, we can just. So I don't think we need to have her change it. We need to change the blue column to match. So I guess the question is council agreeable to just change that to 1,500 from 1,238? So it's back to what it's been for the number of years. We're okay with that?
Yeah, I can be motivated. It wasn't very good explanations as to what it was being used for.
No, fair enough. And this has been I think this is a totally fair conversation for us to flag some of these for what council wishes to do in future. But because honestly, they've never come to council in my recollection as being even an option. They've just sort of disappeared into the background in the past. So, if do we need a resolution to make individual changes at this point, or can we just sort of do it by agreement around the table?
So you could actually make agreement around the table, and then once you're actually ready to endorse the numbers in the blue column, we'll do that by resolution
Right.
and link that to the
Because
minutes.
the individuals don't matter. It's just the blue column at
It's
the end
the
of the
blue
day that
column
matters.
that matters.
Yes, absolutely. So just restoring that one to 1,500. So that brings our total up to what now?
That brings our total to $116,092.
Okay, so we're still $1,000 under what our maximum is. Okay, yeah. Why don't we can we just start at the top and work our way down?
So the first one, City of Victoria, is $1,643. Community Association of Oak Bay, $1,421. Friends of Uplands Park, $2,329. Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society, $1,643. Green Teams, $3,786. The Francophone, $12,286. Maritime Museum, $1,500. North Oak Bay Community Association, $557. Oak Bay Figure Skating, $2,616. Oak Bay Heritage, $3,929. Oak Bay Lawn Bowling, $3,271. Oak Bay Sea Rescue, $5,201. Vancouver Island South Film and Media Commission, $10,000. Victoria Sexual Assault Center, $5,571. Victoria Women's Transition House Society, $1,214. The Halloween Kiwanis, $500. Oak Bay High Scholarship, $1,500. The Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Fund, $3,000. Oak Bay United Church, $3,500. South Island Prosperity Project, $43,712. And Integrated Recreation, $6,913.
Sorry, what was the integrated recreation? 6913. Since none of us know what that actually is there anybody here who can actually tell us what that item is? Oh, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, only because I attended one of the volunteer sessions and I had the opportunity to speak with a volunteer who is able-bodied and gives assistance to people with disabilities, so it allows them, and they can attend things like free swims at the rec center if they're with some able-bodied people that can help them with the facilities and whatnot. So that's what they explained to me it was.
Mr. Jones, did you have something else to add?
Your Worship, so it's a program that operates throughout the region, and there's actual computations as to what each local government should contribute to that, and that is our portion. And Councillor Patterson had it right on the money that what that funding is for.
Okay, RIV is how I've seen that. So I think that's actually a contractual amount. So can we put that back to the 7,065 and just see where that brings us?
Is South Island Prosperity not a contractual amount as well?
I believe it is, Councillor Mr. Jones.
Your Worship, yes, it is.
Thinking that if we need to put prosperity and integrated recreation back to those amounts, if that's how much we have agreed to pay, and I think that adds another 771 to.
So probably just over the 117 at this point.
116,863.
Okay. So we're within a couple of $100 of our total here at this point. Is that sufficient for everybody? Can we round those off to some numbers of, at least to the nearest $10 or something like that? Can we? I think we can probably make the motion of just rounding them to the nearest $10 and just don't have to do the math right now. We can just make the resolution to approve those. Is that?
Your Worship, Council may consider a resolution that reads something along the lines that Council directs staff to include in the 2019 budget the allocation of grants and aid as detailed in the minutes of the April 23rd Council meeting, of which this table will form a part, in an aggregate amount not exceeding $211,475.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. So that's the cumulative total amount. Any discussion?
I just want to thank staff for this. Wow. Wow. What a difference. Thank you.
Well, let's actually pass this first before we get there, because it may all fall apart yet. It might fall apart yet. Let's just try this. So we have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Opposed? Unopposed? And there was another motion as well.
Yes, Your Worship. Staff are requesting that Council also direct to include $35,000 in the 2019 budget as a separate grant to the Oak Bay Volunteers, exclusive of the grant and aid amount of $211,475. So that comes from a different place in the budget.
I'll make that motion.
Moved. Seconded. Councillor Zelka?
I was wondering if staff could please explain what this additional amount is for. Are they asking for this? Why was it not part of the grant process per se, and yet it sort of is part of the grant process? So what is so unusual about this grant versus what we've already are granting them? Please.
Thank you very much. And in fact, we aren't already granting. This is the grant, but it comes from a different place. Ms. Carter, please explain this to us.
Thanks, Your Worship. So yes, this is part of the grant. They do submit an application each year. The only difference is that it comes from a different GL account. They have their own separate line item.
So if I may follow up, is this straight dollars, or is this in kind with respect to paying for their rent down below, or is this paying the electricity? I mean, how does it work out in terms of the practicalities? Do they pay us rent? I don't know how that works.
Ms. Carter?
No, they don't actually pay us rent. The $35,000 is to assist them typically with their operations. So it's a check that is granted to them, same as the other applications that come in.
Thank you. So we have that motion on the floor. This is no change from the previous year, correct? Ms. Carter?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Okay, thank you. But we need a resolution as well to approve these dollar amounts rounded to the nearest $10. Is that an appropriate motion?
Your Worship, I believe the first motion that you made will cover this based on the sheet forming part of the minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. I've got so many scraps of numbers around me right now. I got to check out and see where I'm at on my to-do list, but I believe we're pretty darn close to the end at this point. In fact, very close to the end, but we do have a little bit more to go. We have some new business. Is there any new business that Council wishes to bring forward? Councillor Zelka?
Is this the appropriate time to provide a notice of motion, or would that be after?
This is the time to do a notice of motion if you wish to do so, yes.
I wish to provide a notice of motion with respect to the secondary suites implementation in Oak Bay. And it will, I'll provide the wording to staff to review, of course, but essentially, if I could provide an outline of it, if you don't mind,
Yes, we have some idea of what you're bringing forward. That'd be good.
So where the terms of reference for the secondary suites were approved the 9th of July 2018 and provided 5 phases for implementation, and the council. Where is it? And in addition to the terms of reference being approved, council directed staff to initiate the secondary suites process. And this was just before staff broke for summer break. And then shortly thereafter, we had the election. There were 5 phases in here that went from commencement right through to final strategy and approvals of the policy and the bylaws. So council also approved on the 11th of March, approval funds of up to $50,000 for staff to commence work on the housing needs report. And at that meeting, that was captured in the minute, that particular motion, but what was not captured in the minutes, which I'm hoping we could I formalize here, was a preference for one of the two housing initiatives in terms of the scheduling. And one of the, I believe we had approved the scheduling where the housing needs reports and the secondary suites reports would finish together, but unfortunately the minutes don't show that. And then when I heard a staff go through the initiatives, that was not brought up as something that seemed to be important to staff. So I wanted to make sure that was captured. So what I will be proposing, therefore be it resolved, is to delete phase number 5 from the terms of reference of the secondary suites report, which tells them to create the bylaws and take it to public hearing, and consider adding that completion to the overall housing options referred to as the housing needs report. That's what I'll be proposing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Zelka. I would just encourage you to definitely talk to staff about not just the wording, but also how that would just make sure that because it's less of a direction of staff, but to clarify that process would be helpful. Thank you. All right. Any other new business? Seeing none. We have the CRD update. Not a lot coming forward. There was a report given to the Core Area Liquid Waste Treatment Committee. You probably heard in the news that there was an overage on I think they gave a warning a little while ago, and now they have it. So there's an over of $10 million on the overall project, about a 1.4% overage. So it's all of the reserves that they had set aside plus an extra 10 million. That's probably a pretty firm number. They feel like pretty confident they're going to do that. They were just in the last phase of conveyance pieces right now. However, that was also achieved by they dropped some aspects of the project. So it's all in Oak Bay for the most part. So they've reevaluated the water flows through the system, determined. KWL did the review. Mr. Haran had a look at them and agreed they were correct that the needs for the expansion were not required. So that was 3 parts: the expansion of the East Coast Interceptor, the upgrading of size to the Currie pump station, as well as the twinning of the pipes from the Currie Street to the Clover Point. So those are now off of the scope, not going to be done anymore. So just a heads up on that. The other piece is just a heads up. At the last CRD board meeting, there was agreement to send out to all the individual councils the interest in some sort of farmland trust. So interest in participating, interested in donating land, should you have farmland to donate, and are also just interested in the role of the CRD in such a body as well. So that will be coming to this floor at some point to provide feedback. And that's it. And of course, I said at the beginning of this, if anybody wants to say anything about AVIC, you're more than welcome to. If there's any other verbal reports, this is the time or place to give them. Councillor Braithwaite?
Thank you. I think because I've been sick for a few meetings, I didn't get a chance to say this, if there was a chance to say this. And I just wanted to add my thanks to staff for closing down the Municipal Hall on the day of former Mayor Nils Jensen's funeral, and also to really thank the police and the fire for doing the honor guard. I think that really meant a lot to the family and to others who were in attendance. So if you can just pass along our thanks, I think that would be really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Zelka?
Thank you. If I could indulge Council to provide my views about the AVICC and some of the observations. I just wanted to first of all congratulate Councillor Braithwaite for getting re-elected as a director. I forget which director, but one of the directors of AVICC. At large. Yes, at large. And she's loose and footloose, fancy free. There you go. But one of the things I very much appreciated about AVICC is the relatively relaxed pace and the opportunity to network. It was amazing being able to connect with a number of service providers who are trying to engage with us, and sometimes the slightly less formal way. of engaging through AVICC I found very, very helpful. In particular, one of the items that came up on our priorities is this Wi-Fi upgrade and some of the computer aspects and those sorts of things. And surprisingly, some of our service providers were there, so I had a chance to actually talk over with some folks from Shaw, some folks from TELUS, some folks from Wind Mobile, whatever they're called, and they were all very, very interested, very familiar with Oak Bay, and quite eager to meet our staff. So I did my best to segue. Staff's over there. They want to talk with you. So hopefully meetings will be set up and we can move forward on I guess what we're now coming forward with is this committee to do IT stuff. So anything I can do help with that would be fantastic. But AVICC was fantastic. At the Powell River, I was actually very incredibly surprised. First time I've ever been there. The entertainment was unbelievable for a pulp and paper mill town. I was obviously wrong in my view of pulp and paper mill towns. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to update? Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship. Just to update everyone, today over lunch was library board meeting, so just very quick update on that. The discussion there continues on we had official confirmation of the provincial funding being announced for libraries, which continues at its previous rate. So there's some discussion going on about the issues around a lack of increase in provincial funding for libraries. So I think council will hear from me a little further in the weeks to come about this, just in terms of what council might to be able to do to take action on that. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that the library board and the attendees acknowledged the passing of former Mayor Jensen and his dedication and his service to the library board, and asked me to say a few words on that regard, and I really appreciated their comments in that regard. And just finally on that point, one of the presentations was on an accessibility review of the library branches, so which was conducted by the Rick Foundation, and the reporting out has happened with their obviously extensive expertise on board to determine the accessibility and barriers in the existing branches. And what it did was to reinforce. I think everybody here is aware, but it bears repeating that the library depends on the individual municipalities and the individual participating municipalities to take care of the facilities. The facilities are ours, whereas the library conducts the services. So when we look at items to those types of capital upgrades that might be needed to address accessibility issues in the branch, in the Oak Bay branch specifically, this very much sort of twigged my thought process around our ongoing discussions about facilities upkeep and maintenance, how we could do a better job around considering all municipal facilities and what kind of budget we need to set aside to address those kinds of things, because it sort of stuck in my mind to say what budget line item would this be under, who would raise this if there were concerns about this, and how would we go about dealing with it, and that's a little bit vague for me right now. So I just wanted to update everybody and bring everybody up to speed on that. And then just finally, carrying on from Councillor Zelka's comments about AVICC, as a first-time councillor, it was a really enjoyable and productive experience for me. I will just be brief and just say I am very taken, as a relatively new politician and a new councillor, I'm very taken with the openness and the accessibility and sort of the genuineness of all the people that I met there. I think our region, the island, the South Island, and the region covered by AVICC has, I think there's a tendency to some very warm, approachable, and just sort of down-to-earth people in public service. So I really enjoyed all the conversations that I had.
Thank you. I agree with that. It was a very good piece. Well, Councillor Appleton and I also got the opportunity to do a tour of the new Salish class. Mark Collins, the CEO of BC Ferries, happened to be walking by and offered a tour of the bridge, and it's a very fascinating ship, the newest in their group, and really an interesting tour. It's certainly nice to get a tour by the CEO. Everybody was very attentive to our needs. I think that's it. We have Councillor Zelka.
I just also wanted, regarding AVICC, I also wanted to say I very much enjoyed carpooling with the councillors in my car. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we wrap this up tonight, I just do want to give my appreciation to staff. This is the not quite the culmination. We have to go through the approval processes and everything else formally, but this the efforts made this time to make significant improvements to this budgeting process. To this was much nicer tonight, I will say, on the grants. But all in all, we have a ways to go, I think, before we get to where we all would envision this wonderful future where we're planning years in advance and all these pieces. But what a real effort given by all the members of staff. Particularly the finance department. So we just pass on our thanks, Ms. Carter, and to the administrative staff who filled in all kinds of ways on this, and all the department heads and people who provided. It's been a very positive process, and I appreciate that all that hard work isn't always seen. It sometimes just comes here. So it's I know we have more to go, but I also want to just recognize the enormous amount of work that went in this time to get to this point. So thank you very much for that. And with that, we'll just go to motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you so much.